Sean Parker, along with Nick Eilerson from the Washington Post, discussing the big flip in the D.C. area. Dwayne Haskins, Keandre Jone flipping their commitments from Maryland to Ohio State. Nick, this is certainly just taken the DMV by storm. And why did Haskins and Jone flip their commitments in the first place?
Well, first off, shout out to my colleague at the Washington Post, Brandon Parker, for breaking the story. He got a text message from Keandre on Monday and wrote a great article about it. I'm just kind of his messenger here today, so here we go. But it all started in October, I guess you could say, when Maryland fired Randy Edsall. Whenever you hire a head coach, change is bound to happen. The two kept their commitments in place, kind of waited to see how everything played out. Both Keandre and Dwayne were recruited by Mike Loxley, an assistant coach for Maryland, who was very influential with recruiting, very charismatic guy. So they kind of waited to see if he would stick around. That was the main key. And when Maryland hired DJ Durkin in December, they started thinking, well, let's see how this goes down. And of course, Durkin decided not to retain Loxley, which is about the point where both players started kind of opening their options again. I think they both visited some schools. I believe that Dwayne took an official visit to Florida at that time. I think Dwayne actually visited Ohio State as well. And so they were exploring options a little bit. And then this past weekend, we had Keandre taking an official visit to Ohio State. And Urban Meyer was showing him just the wondrous palatial headquarters of Ohio State and everything that's going on with that football program, and having him hold the trophies and the rings and doing everything you do as a recruiter. And of course, a high school kid's going to be enticed by that. It's certainly apparently swayed him. And meanwhile, Dwayne was in Maryland. He was at Maryland, happened to be at the Maryland's basketball game. And who are they playing? Well, they're playing Ohio State. A coincidence, who knows? But
maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and so lo and behold, the next day on Monday, we learned that both are going to both flip their commitments from Maryland to Ohio State. So, and they're both good friends, so that kind of is how it went down.
And we see Dwayne's senior stats right here, over 2,200 yards, 20 touchdowns. Now, Maryland's quarterback situation over the last couple of years has been kind of shaky, and they were really looking at Dwayne Haskins to potentially come in and start from day one. So where does this flip leave Maryland's quarterback situation in the short term?
Right, not necessarily he would have started, but he did have potential to do so. He's a good player. But of course, Maryland, being a major college football program, does have several other options at quarterback. They've got some guys coming back, two seniors, Perry Hills and Caleb Rowe, kind of split time last year. Neither is going to blow you away, but they'll just certainly get their chance in the offseason. Gage Schaefer was a freshman last year. He's 6'7", big kid, big arm. See what he can do. Suspended for a couple games at the end of last season, so let's see what he can bring to the table this year. I think they'll work him in as well. And they're also looking at a couple guys. They're trying to recruit a couple high school seniors right now as well. You've got a three-star prospect in Louisiana who the new offensive coordinator, Walt Bell, actually just paid an in-home visit to this kid whose name is Lindsey Scott Jr. Down in Louisiana.
Did he have one of his PJs like Jim Harbaugh did up in Michigan? Or just one?
No word on the PJ situation, but who knows how things go behind closed doors there. Certainly Walt Bell's a good recruiter from everything I hear, so he'll try to sway him. Lindsey Scott decommitted from Syracuse last weekend. So that's when Maryland decided to pounce and act quickly, pay him a visit. They also offered Ty Pigrome, another good player, a dual threat quarterback in the state of Alabama. So he might fit in well. I think their view is since he's a dual threat, he could fit in well in their up-tempo spread attack that Maryland's planning on running under Loxley. So.
Now,
under DJ Durkin.
Okay. Now, how do these two high-profile decommits? How do those affect the other potential recruits that are coming to College Park? Is it going to sway them anyway?
No, I don't think so. I mean, people are making a big deal out of this, a little bit too big a deal. I think these are college kids, and a verbal commitment doesn't mean much these days. As you know, we hear about decommitments and transfers every day. This verbal commitment, it's something that gets changed a lot of times, and I think kids aren't going to look at this and say, "Oh no, Maryland must be a bad place." I think Maryland has a good coaching staff in place. It looks like DJ's brought in some really high-powered coaches. His assistants include 3 former FBS head coaches, and as well as a bunch of younger coaches who are very bright recruiters who are going to be good on the recruiting trail as well. So I think, if Maryland piles up a few wins, if DJ turns out to be a really good coach, then Maryland fans are going to forget about these two prospects as quickly as they were to jump on the message boards and start heaping scorn on these two for flipping their commitments.
Now, I'm a Maryland alum, so I'm going to hold you to that I'm not that I'm going to forget about this
Okay,
come the start of regular season.
Alum, so I don't have the same hope, I guess you could say, but no, it doesn't matter. We'll see what happens. All the best to them. Like I said, I don't think this is as big a deal as people make it out to be, and who knows how good Keandre and Dwayne Haskins will be in college. Hopefully they're good players, but you never know. Kids sometimes don't pan out, so this isn't the end of the world. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
So without these two recruits, DJ Durkin still off to a pretty good start at Maryland?
It looks like it. Like I said, he brought in some good assistants, and they also secured some commitments that were kind of waffling back and forth after Edzall left and after Loxley left. They bring back a nice cast of DeMatha commitments, 4 guys who are really going to help the team hopefully next year. Then some of them might get redshirted, but they have proven themselves to be decent recruiters. I just think also they might not have had a lot of time to form good relationships with Keandre and Dwayne. That factors in as well. So you can't really blame these coaches for losing these commitments. It happens. When I was in college, I remember I had no idea where I was going to school in the first semester of senior year of high school. So verbal commitment, I can't imagine with these kids. People change their mind month to month, so it's just what kids do sometimes.
Yeah, I think Maryland was my 5th choice of school.
There you go.
Last thing, how about, and we talked about this off camera, a way too early prediction about Maryland's upcoming
we didn't
season.
talk about it enough because I still don't have a good one. Well, they went 3-9 last year, so I don't know how much improvement they can have year to year here. I think they might be hoping for something around 500, squeak into a bowl game with a whole new coaching staff. It's a whole new beginning for Maryland. So you got to work your way up little by little, especially in a tough Big Ten conference. It's tough. Another aspect of this, when you look at teams like Ohio State, schools like Ohio State, Michigan, all those guys, when you see them kind of dipping into the recruiting bubble of the Washington D.C. area, it's a little bit scary in terms of future prospects for that. But hopefully Durkin can step it up and keep a hold of this area, because it's a very fertile recruiting bed.
That indeed it is. Just for the record, I'm going 11-1 Orange Bowl for Maryland. Okay, I'm the eternal optimist here.
I'll say 5-5.
5-5. Fair enough. All right. So talking about the big commitment flips, I'm Sean Parker, Nick Eilerson from the Washington Post. We'll see you later.